Hello, everybody, and welcome back to that Milan podcast. Martino Puccio, Matt Santangelo, alongside you guys as always. Thank you guys so much for the support so far this summer. We are in the middle of July, which is basically the middle of the first month of the Mercato. So again, please subscribe, follow that Milan podcast here. Follow us everywhere, Instagram, TikTok. We finally got Santangelo in on the Instagram account. So woohoo, finally. Thanks for arriving. Very dull type of moment right now in the window. So we urge you guys to kind of like really stay with us through this entire time. Again, give us some of your thoughts, frustrations on the market, because we know every single one of you do. You can comment on the Archie Brown saga if you feel so obliged to. We're not going to be discussing that today, so don't get your hopes up on us kind of poo-pooing and kicking a dead horse. Santangelo, not much has happened. So do you want to just hop right into it, or do you have anything opening statement that you have?
No, opening statement feels
prepared?
like I'm standing trial over here. No,
I mean, it's just
no. I mean, honestly, like this, we've done. We got off to a pretty I don't know, exciting start. There was a lot of
proactive start
and a lot of things going on. I was like, okay, like maybe we have something here. There was a lot of talk on the sales side too. It felt like we had Musa leaving and several other players. But then I don't know. I think everything seems like it's hanging and hinging on Jashari, which obviously is something that we mentioned and highlighted a couple of weeks ago, where we talked about, well, what does the striker market look like for Milan? Because that's been a big talking point and something that we have to keep our eye on. And it seems as though that I think we're spot on. I think the Jashari deal being on hold right now because there's no willingness to budge above their offer, which I think was somewhere around 38.5, including bonuses. That's what it feels like we're dealing with right now. Milan were pretty invested. They literally sent a jet to get Archie Brown and failed with him going to Fenerbahce. So yeah, Milan are in a little bit of a rut right now. I think that there's a lot of things on hold, and I think the next week or so is going to tell us a lot on Jashari, because a deal like this again, they did.
I think it's going to happen, man.
I something tells me it will happen too. He did actually report to training, but I think he trained on the side. I don't think he trained with the group.
I know a little bit more about that if you just want me to expand a little bit. Basically, what you're saying is true. He went in training with the group. It's so funny how they describe the situation. I'm not sure how you read it. It's it's for what it reminds me of is like when you want your cousin or friend to sleep over for the night and your parents are kind of on the fence of letting you stay over, but you have to be on your best behavior and able to go and sleep over at your cousin's house. But they're like, okay, show up to training, do what they ask you to do, but you got to train on the side because Jashari hasn't been training with the team, so he's behind conditioning.
He also didn't attend, I guess, like a traditional dinner that they normally host.
Oh, I thought it was also they were in England as well.
He didn't. So he didn't travel with England. This was, I think, last week. Or travel to England with the team, because obviously things were very much intensified with this potential deal. And then I think this week he finally came back to training, and to your point, was distant from the group, but also didn't attend that dinner or lunch or whatever, or that function. So. Again, something to keep your eye on, but I just want to reiterate at that point that I do think that in the next week or so, something has to give. Either Milan ups their offer because Brugge don't look like they're going to cave, or pull out of that deal and say, okay, this is not getting done. We're so fixated on this number. We're so unwilling to go an extra 1.5 to 2 million for this player that we're going to go elsewhere. And by that sort of scenario, Martino, if you're willing to spend almost 38 million on a singular player for the midfield, now it makes my curiosities go. And okay, fine. If you're willing to spend 38 million on a player, and now let's say you pivot and you get someone that's 20 million, 25 million, what does that tell us for the rest of the market? Because what we saw last year, just as a quick reminder, guys, we were ready and willing to trigger that release clause of 40 million for Joshua Zirkzee. All of a sudden, we're like, the agent commissions. And then we got a striker in Alvaro Morata for a fraction of the cost. So that's going to be interesting. I think that, again, Jashari's situation is going to be a driving force as to what the rest of the market can look like for Milan in the coming weeks, because the players are out training. They're ready to go. So you need to get your integral cornerstone pieces of the market in very soon.
And two things real quick before we move on to the topic. Agent commission is also a big deal as to why Archie Brown was not coming as well. Fenerbahce upped everything that way. And then secondly, Morata stuff should be moving if this Galatasaray Napoli deal gets over the end, because Galatasaray obviously are going to hold on to Morata as long as they can while this deal is trying to transpire with Napoli. So we'll see what happens there. Then Morata should get the green light to go to Como. Okay, Milan get 10 million euro in there. Maybe things change up. Okay, so moving on to it. Finally, he is here. He's arrived. The Kim Kardashian meme that you always like to post. Luka Modric arrived for Milan wearing the number 14. Listen, it's great. I really have a hard time like being a negative Nancy on all fronts regarding this club, but how can you not sit here, look at this picture of this freaking icon of the sport, and not say to yourself, "Oh yeah, I'm excited for this," or "not excited for this." This is one of the greatest players to ever play this sport, let alone, signed for Milan. Luka Modric official with Milan. He came in all smiles when he landed at Malpensa Airport. And again, we just see him here. And I wanted to get the screenshot perfectly because the caption said, "Very happy to be here at a big club like Milan. In case anyone wants to banter you guys can go and use that one." Modric arrives. He gives his interview, obviously signs the contract, discusses quite a few things. They had the picture up on the wall of him as a kid with the Rossoneri kit. We already talked about this at length, time and time again. I think when he returns from his vacation in a couple of weeks in August, he'll be ready to start training for the season. But he was just talking about how hungry he still is as a player and how much he still has to give, how much he really wants to play within Serie A, how much he's been watching Serie A because of the Croatian players that play in this league. It's just a dream, regardless of age. I understand where people are coming from because it reminds them of the Beckhams, even Zlatan 2.0, Ronaldinho, where we're signing these legendary players past their prime instead of when we got them in their prime. Modric, as we have mentioned at length, can contribute. So what is your overall feelings of Luka Modric finally signing for Milan and picking the number 14 kit, which was Tijani Reinders? So go ahead.
Sure. Luka Modric in a Milan shirt. We finally arrived at that point, and it's interesting because I try to reflect back on how this all came about. And I remember I was leaving work and I saw a post, and it was exclusive from Fabrizio Romano. It was Tadic flew out to Croatia to convince Luka Modric to join Milan, and you think about those sorts of things and you're like, all right, we'll see. This guy has options, right? He can go and get a final payday if he so pleases in Saudi or MLS on a 1-year deal or 1 year plus one, right? If there's an option included.
Yeah.
And then this thing picked up steam, and here we are. Luka Modric is officially an AC Milan player, number 14 shirt, as you mentioned, which it's getting difficult for me to resist buying that one. But I think just to kind of finally break down the sort of the official details as they came about, because I know there was a lot of talk about, well, the wages are going to be high, and why are we putting this much money into a player that might only be here for a year? We need to get players that are of different quality, yada yada yada, younger guys. Luka Modric on a 1-year contract with an option at $3.5 million is a great bit of business. The player last year proved that he can stay fit. He can still make an impact. And even if he maybe isn't starting every match like he did last year for Real Madrid, he still is able to kind of pick up right where he left off, jump into a game, and still make an impact regardless of what his role is. So for those that are sort of concerned on that part, I'm not looking at the age. I saw what I saw last year. The player at a high level in the best club in world football, in the Champions League and high leverage games, still produced. He still had a very good year. Maybe not the year he had in his Ballon d'Or and his prime at Real Madrid, but still a very, very good player. And obviously all the other things that he's going to bring to the changing room. And the people that sort of are still, having doubt over Luka Modric coming to Milan, I have this, right? Because I've seen a lot of people say, well, it's him coming for the maybe come for the money, or it's his last payday, whatever. You don't pick up 28 trophies at Real Madrid, their most decorated player in terms of trophy accumulation, play at a high level at 39 approaching 40, do so in the manner for which he's done his entire career, and all of a sudden make a move to your boyhood club, and now you're treating it as if though it's a payday, and it's I'm just going to vibe out and make my last paycheck. You don't join your boyhood club to just settle for mediocrity.
He mentioned he had other offers.
Like, too. He had other offers. He could have went to Saudi and probably got double what he's getting here. Some MLS team would have taken him for a year. You know that. Like, Giroud did.
We all know Milan. When has Milan ever had the highest offer?
Right. So when I look at this deal, just to wrap, I get that some people are concerned that, well, maybe 39-40, he's logged a lot of minutes, a lot of miles, in this league, and now all of a sudden, like, is he able to produce still another year? Are we going to get his regression now? Are we going to get him on his decline? And I think that given that we still have Divock Origi on the books for $4.5 million net per year, at least for another 12 months, it looks like, to sign a player of this caliber for $3.5 million on a 1-year commitment at the least, or at the most, assuming he doesn't get the option, yeah, I'm willing to take that. It's a special moment for Milan fans, but it's also a special moment for him. He gets to live out this opportunity, live out a dream. And, my final point is this. I tweeted out, some of the things that, he brings to the table as far as, his trophies, his pedigree, his experience. He's probably on cloud 9 right now, walking into Casa Milan, seeing all the Ballon d'Or winners. Guys, this is just a very special player. I understand people's concerns, but we have to appreciate a player like Luka Modric, who he could have retired. He has earned a ton of money. He could have just said, I'm done. So he's taken this Milan opportunity with the intention and purpose of winning something, which I think would be a very special thing for him to end his career with.
Yeah, I mean, he mentions in his interview with Milan, you can go and check it out on their YouTube channel. They have the interview in English. He just mentions how he still has that burning desire to play, and he wouldn't do anything like that if he didn't have that. And just to join this club is just a big part of it. So again, Luka joining Milan, he'll officially be training with the squad in a couple of weeks. Once he takes his vacation, obviously, because he's been at the Club World Cup, also why this announcement took so long. But again, the number 14, easy to forget Tijani Reinders then. Moving on to a move of an outgoing player and an incoming player. Marco Sportiello's tenure at Milan is short-lived. He's on his way back to Atalanta, his boyhood club, as we were speaking. And Pietro Terracciano of Fiorentina will be joining Milan, so they go backup for backup. Simple transition here. It is very important in general, considering Manjan's injury history. Sportiello, really quick, just want to talk about it. His entire legacy is about slamming his hand on a door in New York City and essentially birthing Lorenzo Torriani of Milan Youth, who we'll see what his future really is, dictates. Looks like Laponava might be going to Cremonese. He was the third choice goalkeeper. We'll see if Torriani maybe stays for the year with Milan. Yeah, listen, I kind of like the fact that Sportiello was our backup goalkeeper simply because he was not Cyprian Tatarusanu that we had to worry about every single time a shot was directed towards goal. Terracciano comes in. I don't have strong opinions regarding the backup goalkeeper situation, but at one point you would like to believe that it will matter for Milan, considering Manjan's injury history. For me, Sportiello goes back to his boyhood club. Can't really dislike that. Golini, I believe, went somewhere else. I forgot what club in Serie A he went to. So just a little bit of the shuffling of the deck regarding backup goalkeepers. Your kind of thoughts with this? Yeah, I have no real arguments against Terracciano. Is what he is. He's just a career backup.
Yeah, it's an okay move. I mean, I don't know the full particulars of it as far as like wage to wage, what Sportiello was making versus what Terracciano is going to be making at Milan, but I think that, again, just hammering home the fact that we have one competition to worry about. Eventually, Coppa Italia will come down the road. If you have to call on Terracciano to make multiple appearances, then obviously there's a problem with Mike, and therefore, that's a bad thing. That means Milan's season is in a bad spot at that point, you would think. So, I mean, one competition, you expect Mike to be out there as the captain every every week. Of course, things do happen if he does pull up lame or gets a slight knock or injury and something that you do need an adequate backup. It's not maybe as extreme as we see here in the States with like an NFL backup quarterback. That's a stronger, like you really do need to have a backup quarterback of good quality. But here, yeah, I mean, nothing really more to add. I'm not going to go into detail about who's better at building at the back and who's better shot saver and all these sorts of things. I mean, Terracciano's been in this league for a while. He's played at Fiorentina. He's played across this country, so he knows what's going on. He knows his role. I'm sure it's just a simple switching of the two players, and hopefully, again, we didn't really get to see much of Sportiello, but if Terracciano does get the call, hopefully we do get similar impact to what maybe we got with like Tatarusanu and some of the other backups of previous years.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a minimal move, but it's something that goes under the radar during the transfer season that you'll be like, okay, well, this is where it matters now during the season, whether or not Manyan basically does anything, gets injured, knock on wood, he's fully healthy and has the best season since he first arrived here, which is what I fully anticipate with an Allegri system. Yeah, there isn't much left to comment on that. So speaking of comments, we'll hop right into our loanee striker, Francesco Camarda. Again, Sempre Milan had the full interview here since he is officially a Lecce player now. The interview basically details everything about his move, how he's coming from Milan, what he fully kind of expects to do when working with Kristovic as well, because it looks like they're keeping him for the time being. Di Francesco is the manager now, no longer Marco Giampaolo. With this, I found it interesting, and I think many found it interesting in the terms of his comments regarding Milan and just basically being presented as a professional. I find it interesting because of the simple fact that he's alluding to the fact that Milan don't treat their youngsters who signed professional contracts as professionals. Kind of came across like Milan are coddling them and not truly, like when we have conversations about Italy and youth players, we always hear, well, they don't do it the right way. They don't do it the way that they do it in Spain and in other countries where they're like, okay, you're a professional, you sign the contract, you're on the first team, play because you're here. Because you get treated like that, because you were signed as such. Where you see that with Lamine Yamal, and sure, not everybody's Yamal, but Barca do it with plenty of other players. They have done it over the years. It's not exclusive to one. When Camarda kind of made those comments to me, I think it's one of two things. It's both things. One, he's got his head on screwed right. Mentality-wise, he realizes, okay, right now where Milan's at, I got to go somewhere where I could play on a consistent basis, because we saw those inconsistencies with the Futuro, with Primavera, first team. For whatever the reason, there was no consistent playing time for Camarda. I think we all knew that. Him going to Lecce knew, okay, I'm still taking a risk, but this is what's best for my career, that I need to develop as a player, and one of the spots that I can go to in Lecce allows me to have that. And secondly, I think it's also a bad thing with Milan that they are having these comments kind of come out about it. And I think they are important, that it kind of confirms where the Liberali situation is, Matt, that they didn't particularly handle these youth products well. And it confirms the frustrations of many fans. So for you and me, I'm sure you agree to an extent. I'm very happy for him, but I'm also still bitter having to read that and have my confirmations be made that this club has no idea how to handle the youth.
Sure. So, I mean, those comments, when I read them, I took them exactly for how they came out, as being not directive and not aggressive towards Milan, because again, he's still got that affiliation and attachment to Milan, but basically coming out and being very honest and transparent about, the move to Lecce, why he was doing it, and ultimately, the sort of the reasoning behind, leaving Milan, a team that, he's grew up with, right? And he's had some really good moments at a youth level with. It does confirm our suspicions and criticisms of the handling of Milan youth, which by all accounts, it seems as though that what you're seeing transpire this summer is an indictment of some mishandling and improper planning and strategy when it comes to not just Milan Futuro, but the sectors below, right? Every day I see like a player in our youth system, oh, they're leaving to Como, they're leaving to this team on a free. We're letting players that, not saying every single one of them is going to be a star or a first team or have the first team quality to play for Milan, but there are players that are trickling out of this academy, trickling out of this organization at a pretty alarming rate. And it's a numbers game, Martino. This in prospects is a strong, very much a prevalent thing here in the States when it comes to, baseball and a lot of these other major sports where it's a numbers game. If you send 4 players to a team, young players, young talents to a team for a proven commodity, there's a good chance all 4 of those aren't going to pan out, but there might be 1 or 2 that are absolute gems. And that's what I kind of feel is happening with this strategy, or in my opinion, lack thereof, with Milan Futuro and the sectors below, is there are certain individuals that I think they're kind of circling and saying, like, this guy has a future, we're going to keep him. This guy, or we're going to move him out. And I'm not saying that Francesco Camarda's future at Milan, it's never going to happen. He's never going to get an opportunity to come back.
No, you definitely will.
But I do have this sort of feeling around, a lot of these prospects that we're never going to move in that direction. Martino,
No, finish your thought. I have a counter.
So when you highlight who were the recent young talents to come through the Milan system and to successfully carve out a first team role, whether it be as a reserve or a starter. Okay, so you had Davide Calabria. He featured in 2015, 2016. I think he was loosely involved in the Super Cup win against Juventus.
He was a left
Gigio
back.
Donnarumma, Manuel Locatelli. Who else am I missing? Pobega, right? Who went out on like 3 or 4 loans, it felt like, until he actually came back to Milan and played a little bit.
And then he worked.
Right? Those other players that wound up being hits, in my opinion, I would consider Calabria a hit. He was a starting right back for a
He was
right?
Yeah, there's levels to it, but he's a
Donnarumma, Locatelli. Those 3 players all were ushered in during an era where we simply had no choice but to play youth because we couldn't spend that much money. We weren't able to attract better players, and we had to give the fans some sort of enthusiasm towards what we were doing. So we played a young Gigio over Diego Lopez.
Cutrone was another one.
Cutrone as well. I'm sorry about
absolutely.
that. Who actually played really well. But what do they all have in common? They played at a young age. Cutrone was a young player. Locatelli was a young player. Gigio Donnarumma was a young player. That's what really alarms me and concerns me is this is just merely a whole setup and system to be a feeder operation. We're not going to give a lot of these young players an opportunity to play. Even Zeroli went out on loan to Monza.
Well, he had to. He's not going to play.
Right, but I'm saying, like, do you foresee any of these players in the near future coming back and playing key minutes? Because
my counter is like Tade just got here. And we're going off of decisions made by
that. Martino, we just got a young striker in Santiago Mendes. Apparently, we're looking to get another young striker in Boniface and whoever.
Boniface isn't happening.
Boniface. Whoever we get. If we're spending that much on strikers,
that's it. That's the case. It's rumors. It's rumors. They're rumors. I know, but like you're also the one to say at the same time they're not spending money and putting wages towards that. You still also have to keep your options open. You don't not play Camarda. I get what Camarda is going to play at Milan. Like I think yes, he is. He absolutely is. I'll bet money on it. I'll bet $1,000. I don't really care.
We'll see. I know the way they've handled
I don't care. I don't care when it comes to this player. He's playing for Milan. He's going to be a star at Milan. I don't really care. Like I'll bet whatever amount of money. They're going to see it. Because it's going to be undeniable that the second that he starts contributing, that they're not going to have to. And I'm just saying, like, the director that's in here now deserves the benefit of the doubt. But to fix fractured relationships that were ruined prior are where they're at right now. That's the reason as to why this stuff has happened. I don't disagree. Daniel Maldini's another guy that they gave a debut. He had some contributions to the team. When stuff moves around with management and you don't have proper people in place, stuff like that isn't going to work. And you're not wrong in saying that, but I'm also saying, can we let Tare and Allegri make these decisions? Because Christian Komoto, who's a very young and highly touted midfielder for the Primavera, is already getting some experience in games. Like, you could see when Allegri coming in here right now, and you saw fingerprints of it with Fonseca, but Fonseca was never going to work, right? Like, we knew that after a certain point of those matches being played, that it wasn't going to work. But he was the one to actually like be like, oh, okay, let's see what we have here. Allegri, it remains to be seen what he is going to do, because they still have to make Champions League, which is very important. You're playing once a week. It's hard to kind of give minutes to these younger players. For me, I just don't see how Camarda doesn't end up at Milan. Like, the Santiago Jimenez situation is one thing, and then there's so many other clubs that have young strikers, well-ran clubs that have guys that are in their youth, on top of having guys in their prime that are ready to produce right now, because they know that they're proven commodities, right? Like, Jimenez has to play. He has to start. They purchased him because guess what? Camarda isn't anything yet. And whether or not that's Milan's fault is a separate topic. But we know for a fact right now, Camarda is not a Milan-level striker to be contributed playing 38 matches for Milan and scoring goals. Santi Jimenez, as of today, is a better striker. And that's okay to say. And they have to move in that direction with him. And they also have to get a backup for him too. And the director and the manager are not fully convinced by that striker. You still have to purchase someone else. I mean, look at Inter. Inter have 3 to 4 guys that are worth over 25 million. This is actually more about Milan being in the dinosaur age in terms of their attacking depth. How often have we had terrible attacking depth at the striker position specifically, right? You could argue our best striker depth, man, was with like Giroud, Zlatan, and whoever else the third guy was at that point. I'm drawing a blank. Like, they have to get the depth in there. They have to get proven players. And I understand where they're coming from. This also doesn't completely block Camarda for the future. We have to remember he's just 16, turning 17. Or he was just turning 17. The kid is incredibly young still.
I know.
I get what you're saying. Liberali, fully correct. What you're saying, what you're talking about, if Liberali never played for Milan, I think you're spot on for it. I don't doubt that entirely. But someone like Camarda, what he is as a gem, the glimpses that we have seen already, the plan that they actually had in place that he agreed to go on loan, he's coming back, there is that buyback option. That all makes sense to me. He's fine. He's going to be playing. As far as the others go, I don't doubt what you're saying. And I don't think you're wrong, because where is the plan there? You see players want to leave, right? Because they're going to be playing in Serie D. They have no idea what they're doing. Camarda, to me, is a completely, entirely different situation where they know that they can't get rid of him because he's that talented. As far as their plan went, it was all over the place, but they have a director in place that simply said, we have a spot for you. We know where we're going to put you. You like the move and the play and the manager that you're going to be playing with. We have a buyback option that forces that team to play.
I know. I'm just saying to you, Martino, until I see the next young prospect come through Milan and play, and if they keep losing, and if they don't keep competing in the Champions League, they're going to be in a position where they need to get certainties and guarantees. And it wouldn't surprise me at some point in the near future, not saying he won't ever play, but it wouldn't surprise me with the way this management ownership operates. And I say that as an all-encompassing thing, right? If Camarda comes back, or let's say they say, hey, Lecce, we'll let you keep him for a little bit. Because he did good his first year, we'll let you keep him for another year or two. We'll play it by year to year. That day, being Milan, don't say, we can actually flip Camarda for 20 million plus. They will take the pure profit. That's just how they are. That's just how it feels like they operate. Because they've sold, Martino, they sold Tonali.
Sold again, different guys in charge. Tade was not there. Is Forlani still involved, though? Is
Forlani still involved?
Forlani's still involved as the main decision maker 2 years ago. This is not the case today.
He's still involved.
I'm not going to have a different executive directors, but it's nonsensical to say that that's going to happen when you have different people in charge.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying. My counter is that has crossed my mind because until we see
because everyone's a cynic. I get it.
Until we see a young prospect come through, change my mind. So let's see some action.
Well, I'm saying like they're not going to sell, but you also can't say that they're also going to sell them off when different people are in charge. I'm just saying that. As far as like stuff go, like when Tijani Rangers, like the offers in there, a player like that, like yeah, obviously they're going to do that. But I just think when you have Camarda like this at the point of where he's at in his career, he's not going. Like they're simply not going to go like let him leave anywhere. They sold guys, and we don't agree with it, for record money. And then when Teo's situation was Teo's situation, he was out the door. But like for instance, Mike Mañana is still here. You get what I'm saying? They're still trying. They have to extend him. Don't get me wrong. We'll see what happens there. I'm not fully convinced by anything, but I'm just not. If Tade was not here, then I say everything's open. If Forlani is the only guy and these only people making these decisions, then you don't know what's going to happen.
Martino, with all due respect, I'm disagreeing with you on this because while I do feel better with Tade involved, this is his first marking. We haven't seen a lick of a game under Tade and Allegri right already. We felt good about Fonseca last year, right? I went to the game. We watched the preseason. We're like, man, Liberali, he's going to play Liberali. He's going to play all these guys. It went horrible. So I'm not ready to just say like Tade things are going to change. They could. He's also a man doing a job. That's the way I see it. So we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see how things play out. But I'm not ready to just completely say all is forgiven, new ownership, new management. Let's just move forward and we're going to handle everything perfectly.
Well, I never said any of that.
I'm not saying alluded to that. I'm not saying
Well, I know, but it's the counter to my point. My point was never that. All I'm saying is like Camarda saying he's going to leave based off of like what Forlani and those guys were doing is unfair when you have different guys making these decisions, when he clearly had a plan in place for Camarda. When it's going to be tougher to convince Liberali, like we were all saying, like you can't fix fractured relationships with other players. The relationship with Camarda wasn't completely fractured. This is also someone who is literally like has a Curva Sud tattoo on him. I think case by case is completely different. Liberali, like you read and hear everything, that kid's out the door. And you're hanging on by a thread to keep that player, which I don't think they will. As far as other stuff goes with fullbacks, I mean, this is, you want to talk about embarrassing. I'm not even going to bring up the Gazzetta expected formation for the preseason because I keep on getting tagged by people in it. I'm sure you've seen the one. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I'm not going to address it really outside of that. They don't really have fullbacks right now outside of Jimenez, right? Like if we're being like straight up, like who's listed as a fullback will play as a fullback outside of like what Bartezaghi, Alex Jimenez. Archie Brown situation was the Archie Brown situation. That was an €8 million player. A lot of people, and I'm not even talking about the Archie Brown thing. A lot of people, Ali included, probably yourself and even me. What is the budget for fullbacks? What is the priority? What is the idea to do there? I don't know. Was Archie Brown tabbed to be a starter? Was he supposed to be a backup? They're not going to spend $8 million on a backup, right? So what is the plan? We have a name that we'll discuss in a moment to kind of finish out the episode. But the budget for fullbacks is kind of very confusing. You have the $25 million from Teo, Calabria, Florenzi, gone. They have none. We saw links with left backs. Now we're seeing links with the right backs. We're going to talk about the right back in a moment. Mm-hmm. This one is perplexing. I don't think they have a good concrete plan. Maybe it has something to do with the Jashari situation. I haven't really liked anything. And the Due rumors were laughably insulting. Every report, they want 30 million. Milan's initial offer 15. What's their second offer, Matt? They don't even get to 20. They didn't even get to 20. Like how? And you laughed at it because that's just the most typical. Or you do the full outline. What was it? The Jashari one when you're saying
it was like, they want 20 million plus 5, no 40. Okay, 22 million plus 5, no 40. And that's literally what it's been. And
the Due one falls along the lines.
Yeah, Due one's just kind of laughable because obviously I don't claim to be an expert on the player, but the way people talk about him who have watched him and have a good understanding of what he brings. Again, like they're living in fantasy land. They're living in the past. And this sort of kind of like reaffirms what I was just saying, what I was getting very heated with, not heated in the sense with you, but like about the whole subject is like, what is the plan? They just sold Taylor Hernandez for $25 million. They're nickel and diming on a player that they seem to really like in Jashari over what feels like peanuts in this day and age in $2 million. When you see the money that flies around here, right?
Right.
That's my point. I don't trust them. I trust them a little bit because I do like Ricci and I do like Modric, but I trust them from a safe distance.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they're doing all these talks and they're linked to this person, that person, this person. Oh, I like that person. I like that player. He's good. We should get him. Oh, no, we don't want to spend that much. And then they go and get they're going after a guy in Archie Brown, and jokingly I said all these things because again, I didn't really know much about the player, but it's like it's more the principle. It's like you're going after the player, you're trying to get a deal done. The player even says it was done with Milan, and you still don't get a deal done for a player that people really won't even know who he is that much. So it's like for a small fee. It's not like this is a player where Milan are in a gridlock and they're in a bidding war, like fucking excuse my language, Liverpool and Newcastle for Hugo Ekitike. And for Hugo Ekitike.
Yeah.
Right? We're not talking that.
We're talking
they're bidding against Fenerbahce for an $8 million fee and they still can't get the player. Jashari, he wants only Milan. They still can't get the deal done. So it's like, that's my point, is like, I look at how things are going. Right. I look at how the market's going. It feels very similar in a way to last year where we got some players I liked, a lot of other players, not so much. The market felt incomplete. And I'm worried that that's going to be the case this summer because we're not in Champions League and they're going to say, well, we don't need to go crazy. 23 players, maybe we'll keep this guy, we'll keep that guy, we'll see what happens in January, and we'll reassess then. That's what scares me. Are they going to start utilizing Filippo Terracciano and as a fullback? Are they going to start playing with Alexis Salamakers as a fullback? Pobega was something I saw. That's my fear. That's my fear is they're going to cut corners. They're going to quote unquote half-ass it. And we're going to get into the season with an incomplete market, and therefore it's going to reflect in the performances we see on a week-to-week basis. That's what my concern is.
I don't disagree with that because it's just like you were saying, it's €8 million player, and they couldn't go a little bit more to get him over the line. Then how badly did you actually want this player? Was it somebody that you really had your eyes set out for? Or was it just a backup? I doubt it was a backup. I highly doubt they spent €8 million on a backup. Quite frankly, when they don't even have a starter, right? That just doesn't make sense. They upped the salary by a little bit, and the guy wouldn't even have been making $2 million net. And I know like people that I had like talked to and read are saying like this isn't even that good of a player anyways. It's just not that big a deal. But you're right. It's the principle. It's the optics of if you wanted a guy, if you wanted to bring him in, why didn't you do or go the extra inch to go and bring in this player? Because I wanted to tweet it out because it's like Galliani, whenever he wanted a player, the guy would go the extra mile and pay whatever you had to pay to get someone in that would help contribute to your squad and get closer to winning something. And I know the later years, Galliani isn't the greatest of examples, but when stuff went down like that, you didn't have to question it. And go and take care of your thing. I'll just go here.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. And basically, guys, is what I'm getting at while Matt returns is that with Milan, you're basically sitting there having a situation where very much like Xerxes, you know and like a player, and you want to go over the line to go and bring this guy in, but you're hesitating because of commissions. Things that shouldn't come out of left field, by the way. It's not like you're taking a medical exam and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, Anthony Robinson has a heart issue. We can't sign him. Oh, okay, that's preventing us from that because we can't do it. They're suddenly surprised that deals involve agents where they want more money when the deal is about to get over the line. You cannot be caught off guard by things that happen on a regular basis. You can't be surprised when you're in there for a €40 million player like Xerxes and you're suddenly saying to yourself, oh my God, how could we have not foreseen that an agent is wanting some money? how are they surprised that when there is a bidding war where there's 2 jets sitting there for a player, that one team knows that, okay, AC Milan, great history. They have more money than us. They have more allure than us. We have to up our offer to convince this player to come and play for us. Milan are in this situation, and the arrogance of it all, right, Matt? The sheer arrogance that they feel that they don't have to up their offers, that they could just put in one offer. Oh, yeah, of course this guy's going to choose us. Why is that? Because we're Milan. No, you're not
Real Madrid.
You haven't.
It's not Real Madrid.
Because we're not what we used to be 20 years ago. The fans know it, but somehow the executives don't. And I just think even with the deal like Archie Brown, I find the mass hysteria over it kind of funny because I don't think he's anything special. But the optics and the anger towards management for not going a little bit further to get the guy that they supposedly want is warranted. The anger towards them is absolutely justified, and I understand where everyone's coming from, and that's totally warranted with the lack of trust because that was just embarrassing.
Right,
and they're going to have to make up for it.
That's the thing. That's the point I'm trying to make is like, and I mentioned this on the episode where we talked about Teo and being official and the reported fee. It's like, fine. And I still think, like, at the end of the day, like, I would have loved to keep Teo, but that relationship is fractured. I'm not going to harp on that any longer. But that 25 million, like, I knew we weren't going to go back in for a player of similar price. Like, I knew that. Like, everyone knew that. And it's like, it's even more frustrating because it's like, okay, you got rid of a player at that quality, despite, his regression the past year and a half, 2 years, and all the other things that came with it.
Yeah.
And now it's like you feel as though that, man, like they're going to go cheap again. And I'm not saying cheap. Sometimes you can't get value. But when you lose a player like Teo Hernandez, man, you would like to see a little bit of like urgency. Like, you know what? We sold Teo for 25. We know that didn't work out the way we wanted it. But let's go and get a good player at 50, maybe 20.
Like Liverpool did with Trent's out the door, Frimpong in. Andrew Robertson out the door, Kirk
and Kirkies too.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, Robertson out, Kirk is in.
That's kind of like where my frustration lies in with this team.
And we're not even asking for like.
And mind you, guys, this isn't me pinning it completely and solely on Tare, but these are the concerns. What were the concerns that we had, Martino, when we had all this talk about director selection and coaching selection? Will they have the autonomy to do their job? Will you give our Tare the keys to go out in the market and say, go get the fullback you need? Go get the midfielder you need. Allegri, you like this player? Tare, go get the player.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
no hesitation.
That's the point. And again, like Tare and Allegri, I like, but it's those that are kind of pulling the strings and making the final calls that I'm still like, I don't trust.
I don't think that they're going to be bringing in this winning project like what Napoli is doing, which they're cementing themselves as a clear cut favorites for next season, and they will win it. Napoli will win it at this rate. And what Milan do is kind of, you're right, they're cutting corners. Like, I think that they have a budget. It's confined to multiple areas and lack of play, and also the lack of player sales is a huge issue here. Musa not being sold over the line. Difficult. Pobega for a cut
It's
rate.
Also funny too, Martino. Sorry to cut you off, but
No,
I think it's funny because like when we saw Musa for 25 plus at the beginning of the market, everyone's like, take it.
Perlani got greedy.
And they're the ones that held out so firmly. No, we want 28 or 30 million.
Stupid.
Now they're the one team that when it comes to Jashari and some of these other players, now we're not going to that number. Like, it's like, again, it looks from optics, it looks weird. They look weak. I know 38 million is a lot of money for the Jashari, but they look weak. Like, they're coming out of these negotiations with like a black eye. Like, you might get the deal done, and it might look great, and the player might be a gem, and it might be like, oh, this is great. But man, every single deal aside from the Ricci deal so far, because that's the only like deal that's been like more of a concrete deal, like Terracciano, whatever. That's the only deal that was so smooth because a lot of the foundation framework of the deal was reached back in January. It feels that every single move this team is going for is an absolute grind to the very end. It's
The
not
Due
I like
stuff
this
is
player, he's worth 40, boom. Or I like this player, he's worth 25, boom. And that's, again, it's hard to sell that sort of policy and transfer approach when you're just sold Tijani Reinders. Like, you just sold your, but like, fans,
yeah, I know, right?
Fans can stomach a little bit of like, hey, if we sold Tijani Reinders, we sold Tonali for big money, but man, we're moving like how Atalanta move, where they sell a big player for 50, 60 million, whatever it is, but then they go and get like 2 quick guys. And it's like, okay, like they're cooking, like they're doing their thing. Like now you have trust. You feel like they're going to do the job. There's urgency to get deals done and to rebuild this team. Every single negotiation is an absolute grind, regardless of what sources you trust, guys. The ones that we put on here, we consider to be the top end, upper echelon sources. Vitiello, Romano, Moretto, like those are the main ones. We're not just putting emotion and stock in randoms that tweet stuff. So, like, when you see these deals kind of break down and they can't reach deals.
Magnanetti's good too.
Yeah, Magnanetti from Sempre Milan. I know he's like their correspondent, right? So, that's where my frustration is, guys. Like, I don't know. I could go all. You can see the frustration. Like, it's 2 weeks in. This is a roller coaster.
Sant'Angelo cursed, guys. Do you realize that?
What's the Sant'Angelo curse? What is that?
Huh?
Were you talking about the please win tweet? Like, that's what you're talking about?
No, I said you dropped the F-bomb this episode. That's what
I'm saying. Yeah. If I wasn't this animated and I didn't put this much like emotion into it, it almost would feel like I wouldn't care. I am this way I am because I care.
I understand.
You know, like,
I'm just
that's
saying,
how we all are.
It's still rare air. It's still rare.
Of course it's rare.
MARC PUBILL, right back from Almeria. Milan have not made official offers. According to Matteo Moretto, Wolverhampton is the team pressing most to sign him. Milan have been rumored to making offers for Due, who is Desiree Doué's brother. Again, we mentioned Strasbourg are firm on 30 million. Milan are saying 15 first offer. And they're like, no, 30. And they're like, okay, 18 next offer. Doesn't look like that one's getting done or going to get close to it. Maybe if they offer 20 and change, maybe they say, okay, maybe they could bridge the gap. They're not going to, in my opinion, with that. Maybe it circles back, sales happen, who the hell knows. With this, PUBILL, I mean, this one's funny because the rumor is they want 15 million. He was close to going to Atalanta last year. The knee medicals were not good, according to them. So he didn't end up making that move. Who knows with his knee and what his health is. It's so funny to see how Di Marzio is reporting things these days, where essentially he was saying deal could be closed around today for 15 million euro, which was what they initially offered for Due. So it's sort of like, what is your idea here? What's true? What's not true? Quite frankly, I don't believe Di Marzio. I don't think he's accurate with Milan information anymore. And it's not even to take a slight at his information, his career. He's had a great career. He has a good track record. But as far as Milan is concerned, I don't really see how he's accurate in this when it was immediately disputed what he was saying. Like immediately refuted. He's saying it could be done tomorrow for 15, which means they're discussing figures. Moretto's like, they haven't even gotten close to that. They just have him on the list.
Yeah.
PUBILL is somebody that has pretty good analytics. If you're interested in those kind of things, I know this is something that you wanted me to bring up, so I'll just share it here for everybody who is pretty interested. I'll remove the lower third here. As you can see, fouls suffered first. Offensive duels 1, offensive duels 1, duels, offensive duels, aerial duels. These are all for U21 fullbacks across all the top leagues in Europe. He ranks first in 2 of the categories. He ranks second in duels 1, third in duels, third in offensive duels, and sixth in aerial duels 1. So percentile wise, statistically, in the offensive categories, PUBILL is someone that is ranking highly in those and looks pretty good, all things considered in that. That's something that caught your eye?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've seen varied assessments of PUBILL. PUBILL is what I...
You got it.
Right? Yeah, I did pretty good there.
Very good.
I've seen mixed profiling on him. I've seen people say he's pretty good defensively, like he's like kind of leaning more as like a good defensive fullback.
Yeah.
Which again, if we're looking at where our fullbacks were last year, that was sorely lacking. And I think that if we have someone who is a bit more defensive minded and has an emphasis on that side of the game versus going forward, which I know Teo is obviously like that trademark runs and all those sorts of things, which we love, but it often left a lot to be desired on the back end because it's tough to maintain that sort of high octane play going forward and cover back and defend. But if Milan were able to get someone who's pretty sound defensively, and he's a young player, and defending in this league is obviously paramount, and he still has to grow. I heard he's raw. But if they're able to get someone who can defend a little bit better, maybe that relinquishes some of the defensive responsibilities on like a Pulisic or a Rafa, where they can stay forward. They don't have to track back as much and exert as much energy and time going back to support. So, yeah, I mean, look, again, this is another profile that they seem to like. There was another player from, I think, Nice. Was it that guy Bard? He's like a French fullback. I think that name is
yeah. They've been linked to a bunch of French fullbacks.
Right? So it seems
Anderson's another from Monaco.
Yeah, it seems as though they're trying to go young in this department, which isn't surprising. But again, I think that young in this climate doesn't necessarily mean cheap. It's not like what it used to be.
Oh, of course, because of the Endrick market inflates everything.
Right. It's not what it used to be because these selling clubs know, okay, fine. You like Jashari? Well, you wait another year. You're not getting him. He's priced out. He's 67.
Yeah. There's levels to it.
So you have to basically spend up and lean into your analytics and lean into your recruitment and scouting department and say, okay, like how good is this guy? Is he worth us spending up on him now? Because if we like him enough, we got to do it now. And that's sort of what I feel like with all these profiles that Milan are going after. So we'll wait and see. I mean, I think that, the fee seems like it's right in Milan's wheelhouse. If it is 15 million in total, assuming it's 12 plus bonuses or 13 plus bonuses or a 15 outright fixed fee, which I don't see Milan doing.
It's so nauseating.
It seems as though that's probably going to be where Milan live. And it's interesting too, because, they floated around the number of it was like 8 million, I think, for Archie Brown.
Correct.
Then it was
Doué's like 18 million.
They're willing to go up to 18, I think, on Doué. But so now they don't feel like they want to quite maybe go up to 15 on Almeria, on Pubil. But again, things change. But it's hard understanding where the vision's coming from and how much of the market budget is going to be allocated towards the fullback position, which by all accounts, again, I like Alex Jimenez.
Yeah.
But he's still a 20-year-old player. Like,
you still have
to kind of play with some caution here because he's going to make mistakes too.
Real Madrid, and he's also not a long-term option because Real Madrid, by all accounts,
anytime they want.
Everything, yeah, exactly. And the rumors are that they still like him to be a first-team player in their future, where he would be a reserve, getting minutes for them. And the way football teams play matches these days, he can get a lot of minutes. And being a guy there at Real Madrid is still a step up than being a Milan starter at this point in time, or just even in the mix to be a Milan starter. It's just, there's no concrete stuff. And this is the issue when you have a limited budget. To your point, to go back to Jashari and wrap up here, is that when everything hinges on one player and a lot of your budget is allocated to said player, you can't work simultaneously with that. Because if the Jashari deal were to not get over the line, then they could reinvest. Maybe it's Javi Guerrera over there, because Xhaka's off to Saudi Arabia. So he's not even an option anymore. And so with that, it's sort of like, okay, if Jashari doesn't get over the line, we go to Javi Guerrera, who's around 25 million, then that signing, say you save like 13 million there, is that more to allocate towards Doué? Because when they're offering up for Doué, essentially what I'm reading is that Doué and that offer can only be limited so much because of what the Jashari deal is, essentially. Like, right? Like they correspond. And everything hinging on one player for a club the size of Milan is embarrassing. It should never be that. You should be able to operate free-flowing within a market for multiple deals instead of just hinging on one thing to determine what you're going to do in other areas, which is a massive problem.
That's what it was with CDK.
Exactly. And how much time are we losing now? Because at first we were like, oh, good job by Milan. They get the manager in, they get the director in, they get Modric in, they get Ricci in. They know what they're doing. They sold Reinders. They're going to have some ability to move the market. And now it's stagnating.
And the deals on the selling side, which we feel like we were banking on, have stalled. They can't move Adli. Again, things can change, but guys, like Adli's training with Milan Futuro. What's Musa's status? He looked like he was on the outs and going to Napoli for a big fee. That fee doesn't look like it's coming from anybody else.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of players that I think we still have to see what the future holds for them at this club, because Allegri, all the reports are saying 23 players. That's the number he wants to work.
Yeah.
So Milan have to sell. They have to get rid of players. And if you're also struggling to sell while simultaneously trying to buy, this is where Milan's at. They're in a difficult position. And these are the things, and this is the price to pay when you're not competing from a sporting standpoint and you're not consistently being able to bank on yearly objectives and revenue that come from Champions League and all those sorts of things. This is
when your owner's broke. When your owner is broke. All right. Well, we're not going to be beating a dead horse much longer for that. We don't know what's going to happen in terms of incoming signings, outgoings. Not much has been said or mentioned. Pobega was the latest one in which Bologna didn't want to trigger 12 million as the option. They going to consider 9 million, 8 to 9 million. It could be close for. I think if you're Milan at that point, just take it and run. Just take it. You need money. Just do it. The guy doesn't have a role within the team. I think we all know that at this point because of all the names that we mentioned where we're heading to in this season. Adli Benacer. Benacer is considering more with Saudi Arabia, so maybe there's something moving on that front. Just if Milan can get at least 10 million from Saudi Arabia for Benacer, I think it's a win for them. We'll see if Morata gets over the line. That is determined as soon as Victor Osimhen's deal is done. And that's pretty much it for now. We're going to be back next week. Maybe things transpire. Maybe things open within the market. We might have a special episode. I just got a DM from somebody that is a potential guest in Tangel. I'll tell you after recording. And so other than that, there really isn't much left. We really appreciate all your support. We're getting tons of views, tons of people interested. Again, we are, I believe it's 1 month away now, Matt, for the match against Bari.
17th, I think, right?
So was it 15th or 17th? I think it was a week before your birthday is why I remembered it.
I think it's the 17th. I'm pretty sure it's the 17th. But they do have the
17th. You're right. 17th.
They do have the friendlies coming up, I think, against Arsenal.
They're going to Perth, I believe, right? For the Chelsea one. But yes, you're right. The 17th, a month and a day away. But yes, again, follow us everywhere at that Milan podcast. We really appreciate you guys. Give us 5 stars on Spotify. Somehow we're not 5 stars. Someone gave us a little bit less. Thanks a lot for that. We're like a 4.8. I think that's ridiculous. I think you're a loser if you do anything under that. Don't really care what your opinion is. Took time out of your day. Again, follow me at Martino Puccio everywhere, and then at Matt_Santangelo at AC Milan Bros everywhere as well. Matt's doing his work. Rumors he might be interested in doing TikToks, but we don't know. I can't confirm that yet. I'll like Matt was saying, I'll see it when I believe it, and other things I'll see it when I believe it on TikTok with him. Any other final thoughts, my man? Got any fantasy stuff, preview stuff coming out writing wise for Serie A soon?
Hopefully soon. Again, with things constantly moving and so many things like materializing and then collapsing on the market side, it's tough to kind of like give like a preview on a club or, what player brings this to a team if these deals are falling apart by the day. So anything I'm going to be working on, I'll obviously share that on my Twitter at Matt_Santangelo. And I even open this up to, those who are in the comments that do have podcasts or anything like that. I'm also happy to go on other podcasts. I think that people close off, to other podcasts and having sort of good conversation and dialogue. So I'm happy to do that as well. But as always, thank you guys for supporting, for liking, subscribing, helping us grow this podcast. And, we'll be back next week for sure with more content.
Yeah. And again, at Martino Puccio everywhere. Content is booming on TikTok. We appreciate all of you and the support on there. And we'll see what ends up happening. There's plenty of good podcasts that we shout out all the time. So go and check those out. Other than that, we appreciate you guys so much. Take care.